Hello there and welcome to another review from Class 47 Peter, and today we're here to look at the J50 from Hornby. First announced in 2014 for the 2015 range, the model was released just after Christmas towards the end of December of 2015. Three versions have so far been released. 68987 in BR black with the early emblem with the extended bunker, 68971 in BR black with the light crest, and then there's this one, 635 in LNER line black, which is the one I wanted. We first come on to the unboxing. First of all, we remove the box sleeve, and as you can see, this is Hornby's new style packaging, the plastic packaging that is now used with Helgen, Batman and also Oxford Rail. We then remove the plastic packaging from the box tray, and this allows us to get to the paperwork of the box. Moving on to the paperwork, we have the instructions to fit a decoder into the Hornby J50, as you can see, which is printed on this glossy paper that I don't really like, to be honest with you. Then we have the instruction manual for the J50 itself, again printed in the glossy paper. Inside we have the instructions on how to lubricate the model, fitting the detail parts, and also taking the body off. It's all the stuff that we're used to seeing. Then we take off the plastic sleeve of the box to get to the detail parts. And in this case, with the detail parts, we just get a brake rod and two couplings to fit to the model. Then to remove the model from the packaging, all we have to do is to undo the clip on the end of the box, and then that opens up the box so we can get the J50 out. As you can see, there's a piece of foam in the coal bunker, which we take out first, and then that goes in the bin later, of course, and then we just lift the model out. Now we move on to the model itself. Now the first thing that I should talk about is the weight. Considering this is only a small locomotive, it really is quite heavy. You will be surprised at how heavy this model weighs, but the weight is important because the weight creates the traction. Hence nowadays why in this day and age we don't see any traction tyres, because the weight does all the work. But it's even more important on a small locomotive like this that it has weight, and there's definitely plenty of that in this model. For those of you that like your sprung buffers, you'll be pleased to know that this model has them. The buffers are also metal as well, which is good. Onto the buffer beam we have some rivets, as you can see, a white lining that goes around the buffer beam, the locomotive's number crisply printed on the front, and we also have a coupling hook as well. At the front of the locomotive we also have some cab steps that are fitted onto the model. These of course I have not fitted myself, they are fitted at the factory, and also just under the locomotive's frames and footplate you can see that there is some extra detail there. Moving back to the front of the model, we have separately fitted lamp irons on the running board. On the older style Lima model, it didn't even have any lamp irons, they were just moulded onto the front of the side tanks. Onto the smokebox door we have separately fitted smokebox door darts, a lamp iron at the top, and also a separately fitted metal handrail. The smokebox door itself does not open, but it doesn't really need to. Not to be a high scorer anyway. Moving to the smokebox we have some small separately fitted metal handrails on the sides, as you can see, and also we have a nice chimney. You could fit a smoke generator unit in there if you wanted, but this is not really my thing, so I'm not going to bother. But it's there, so you can do that if you wish, but I'm not going to. We also have a nice dome in the middle of the boiler. We also have the water filler caps on the top of the tanks. They don't open, but they don't need to. And also you can see the lovely red lining on the top of the boiler, which looks really nice. Not only that, but also we have a fine metal handrail that goes down the side of the boiler and on top of the tanks, as you can see in this photo here. It is a little fragile, so do be careful with it. Moving on to the side tanks, we have separately fitted metal handrails down alongside the tanks, and also separately fitted handrails at the sides of the cab doors. On top of the boiler by the cab we have turn metal safety valves, and on the cab we also have a turn metal whistle that's separately fitted. Also round by the cab windows we have rivets, as you can just about see, and also we have glazing in the cab windows, something that LNER did not do. In fact, on one model I had of a LNER J50 they didn't even bother to cut any holes where the window should be, they just left it without windows in it. So I'm not too sure what that was about. But in this day and age we expect glazing in the cab windows. On top of the cab roof we have a cab vent. Now this does not open, but then again it doesn't really need to. We do also have some fine red lining going on the top of the cab, as you can clearly see in the photograph. The livery itself on this model is spot on and superbly applied. The shade of black is correct, and also I love the red lining on the model because it really does help to lift the livery. Moving down to the model, we can see that just by the first driving wheel we have some footsteps. In this case it's both sides, but I'm just showing you on this one side. As you can see there's not only lining on the footsteps, but there's also some rivets on there as well, which adds to that detail. And what I particularly like about this, it's been captured really well, is that these footsteps are bent inwards slightly, which is what it was on the prototype. And of course we have some footsteps there just under the cab with rivets on them and some more lining, and also you can see the pipe work there just on the rear driving wheel that goes behind the footstep as per the prototype. Now it's hard to see in this photograph, but just under the side tanks there you can see a reversing lever, but it is hard to see in the photograph, but it is there, and it's also given a nice shiny metal finish to it, which gives a little bit of bling to the model. Also you can just about see that there is some daylight just through there, just under the side tanks, which I do like how it has that hole underneath it, which makes it look unique. Also I love the lining on the wheel arch there, which adds to that detail. We also have a crisply printed works plate on the side of the side tanks. For the cab interior itself, it's what we spec nowadays with all models that are produced onto the market. The cab interior is painted. We have the gauges, the dials, the pipework, the regulator, the levers. It's all painted just like we want it to be, and it really does add to that detail. It makes it look all the more realistic and much more like the real thing. For the rear windows of the J50 we have the guard irons on the back, and also, although it's hard to tell in this photograph, there is also some glazing in the rear windows as well. One can only imagine how tricky that must have been, considering you've got the guard irons on the back windows. For the bunker, I just love how the coal rail is done in a way that it's not moulded like it was with the LNER model. You can actually see through the coal rail of the bunker, so you can see the coal load just underneath the rails there, which is what we like to see, because again on the LNER model it was all moulded and it wasn't really as realistic looking or like the real thing. In this case it does, it's more prototypical. The coal load itself in the bunker is removable, as you can see in this video footage. As you can see in this photo, I have added a real coal load in the bunker, which makes it look all the more realistic. And I do love how Hornby are putting removable coal loads in the bunkers of tank engines. I do wish other manufacturers would take on this idea as well, because so far I've only seen this with Hornby. Moving on to the rear of the bunker, we have separately fitted lamp irons, just like what we saw on the running board. We also have that fine red striping on the back of the bunker, a coupling hook on the buffer beam, more rivets, and the rear buffers are not only metal but they're also sprung loaded as well, just like the front ones. We can't ignore the cab doors, as this model is fitted with, which adds to that detail. I just love the embossing on the LNER lettering and numbering. Years ago it didn't look very good, but nowadays it's just so much more accurate. And the style of font as well is also correct. And the colour, of course. And it just looks stunning. It's also worth mentioning that on this side of the locomotive, just under the side tanks there, you can just about glimpse the boiler of the locomotive, just like you would be able to on the real thing. You can also see some additional detail there under the bunker, which makes it look all the more realistic and close to the real thing. And for the chassis frames itself, as you can see, there are some rivets present, and I just love how nowadays the chassis, they have detail on them, which again, it makes it more like the real thing. Moving on to the running performance of this model, straight out of the box, the model ran smoothly and superbly. There were no grinding noises or juddering movement, but this is not what we expect from models like this when taken out of the box. For the loaded test run, the locomotive was hooked up to the rake of teak coaches. There may only be 4 of these coaches behind the model, but it just shows just how important the weight is. In reality, this locomotive wouldn't have hauled coaches because it was primarily used for shunting. But while I do plan to have this locomotive do some shunting work on the layout, I will also be getting it to pull trains as well. And one can't argue with the fact that these coaches look good with this locomotive. So overall, the Hornby J50 is a stunner, and I think we can all agree that this model is a much better looking model than the old LNER model. All the stunning detail it has and the running performance. I am really surprised that this model has not won a Model of the Year award, because the simple fact is, it deserves it. I therefore rate the J50 a 10 out of 10. This has been Class 47 Peter, reviewing Hornby's J50, and I'll see you again soon for the next review, but until then, take care.